Welcome HFY Sci-Fi Starbound. Subscribe my channel. The Zharn Empire stretched across half the galaxy, a brutal force of warlords, conquerors, and hunters. For centuries, no species had stopped their advance. They crushed planets, enslaved civilizations, and burned those who resisted. Now, their eyes turned toward a small, strange race on the far edge of known space. Humans, the Zharn commanders, expected fear. They expected surrender. What they found was nothing. No resistance. No surrender. No movement. Zharn long-range scouts reported unusual signals from a dead planet near human borders, faint life readings, the kind that meant survivors. Perhaps Bait High Warlord Krell didn't care. Send a hunter squad. Find them. Crush them, he ordered, tapping his clawed fingers on the metal armrest of his command chair. His ship Bloodfang hovered in deep space with a fleet of 30 warships. A hunter squad launched immediately. 5 attack ships, sleek and black, broke formation and dropped into stealth mode. Their target a barren rock called Delta V-47. Once a human outpost, it's now abandoned. Or so they thought. The squad descended, scanners locked onto the weak human signals, biosigns flickered on their screens. 10 humans, maybe 12? Pathetic. They cower in the ruins. But as they landed, something strange happened. The signals vanished. One by one, the life readings faded from their scanners. Zor blinked. What? Second-in-command hissed. Did they block our scans? No. They're gone. The hunter squad landed anyway. 5 Zharn ships touched down outside the human base. Dust rose in thick clouds. The base was silent. No lights. No movement. Zor stepped out in full battle armor. His squad followed 25 elite hunters. Each carrying plasma rifles and neural trackers, the door to the base stood open. Too easy, they entered. Inside the place was perfect. Too perfect. Lights flickered faintly. Consoles hummed. Sat on metal tables. Half-eaten. Warm. The air smelled like human sweat and machine oil. But there were no humans, not even bodies. Check the readings, Zor snapped. His tech officer scanned again. Nothing. No signs of life. Then came the sound. Click, click, click. The doors behind them slammed shut. Locking. Zora spun. Who did that? A voice crackled through the speakers. Calm, cold, human, you came hunting. Zor raised his rifle. You found nothing. You found nothing. The lights blinked off. Total darkness. You are the ones being hunted now, Zor roared. Open fire. His squad fired in every direction. Plasma, bolts, scorched walls, consoles, floors. Sparks flew. But there was no enemy. Only shadows. One by one, the Zharn hunters' weapons began to jam. Systems glitched. Helmets flickered. Were locked out. Someone shouted, Zorr, bared his fangs. Fall back. That the door wouldn't open. Voice whispered again, right behind him. You moved in? We were already waiting. Zor spun, firing blindly. Nothing. Outside. Above the planet's orbit. On board the Bloodfang. Warlord Krell watched the hunter squad's signal feed go dark. All. 25 life signs. Gone. In silence. No alarms. No warnings. Gone. His war council stared at the screens in disbelief. What happened? One of them whispered. Krell's eyes narrowed. They're playing games. Another warlord shook his head. They didn't. Run, they're waiting for us. Krell stood. His voice was a low growl. Prepare the fleet. We're going down there ourselves. But even as he spoke, his sensors beeped. On every scanner across the entire fleet, faint human life signals appeared. Thousands of them, surrounding the Zharn. Ships impossible. They hadn't seen a single human vessel, and yet scanners showed the humans moving in, slowly, silently closing in. Krell felt the first spark of fear for the first time in Zharn history. He realized they had become the prey. From the dark side of a nearby asteroid, a human stealth cruiser hovered unseen. Inside, Captain Sarah Holt watched the Zharn fleet shift in panic. Her lips curved into a cold smile. "They tracked us," she whispered. "Now, let them wonder how long we've been tracking them." But the trap had been set months ago. The faint life. Signals were fake. The human base was a stage. The Zharn had walked straight into it, and now the real hunt began. The Zharn hunter squad moved deeper into the human base. Their armored boots echoed on the steel floor. The lights above flickered softly. The air felt warm, as if people had been here just moments ago. Captain Zor led the squad forward, weapon tight in his claws. His eyes darted left and right, scanning every shadow. "Is wrong?" his second-in-command whispered beside him. Zor grunted. "Stay sharp." They had entered through an open docking bay. They expected a fight, human soldiers waiting in defense. Or at least bodies. But the place was clean, untouched. Food on tables, chairs pushed back, as if people had just stood up. Coffee still steaming in metal cups, but no humans, not one. The squad moved down the hallway. Scanner drones floated beside them, searching for life signs. Again, nothing. "We saw the signals," Zor growled. "They were here." "Maybe they fled," one soldier offered. "No," Zor snapped. "This is a trap." We stopped at a junction. The hall split in three. Directions on the walls. Computer screens blinked. A security feed played. Camera views from inside the base.zorr stared at the footage. The videos showed the Zharn squad them from different angles, from moments ago. But the footage wasn't coming from their own body cams. Someone else was watching them. Zor felt ice run through his veins. "How are they?" Before anyone could answer, a soft voice echoed over the intercom. "You should have stayed away." The squad froze. Zora spun. "Identify yourself." No reply. Instead, soft footsteps echoed from somewhere ahead. Light human ZORR motioned. 2 soldiers forward. "Find them." 2 ran toward the sound. They turned the corner. Silence then. Their life signals blinked off Zor's wrist scanner. Both gone. No gunfire. No screams. Just gone. Zor's eyes burned with rage. "Weapons ready? Move." The squad advanced in tight formation. They passed the corner, found nothing, no blood, no bodies, no signs of struggle. Zor cursed under his breath. Suddenly, the corridor lights snapped off. Total darkness. "Lights on," Zor shouted. Their suits switched to night vision. The hallway glowed green through their visors. But now, something was different. The walls were covered in writing. Human writing. Words, scrawled in black ink. "Everywhere we are watching. You are the intruders now. We don't run. We wait." ZORR snarled. "Who did this?" A low chuckle answered him from the shadows. "You came looking for us?" Zor turned toward the sound. "You didn't find us." The voice moved behind him. "Because we found you first." A sharp crack rang out. One of Zor's soldiers dropped. The others opened fire. Plasma bolts scorching walls and floors, but they hit nothing. "Fall back," Zor ordered. They ran toward the docking bay. They reached the bay doors, sealed shut. Zor slammed his fist on the door control. It blinked red. "Locked," he cursed. "Override it." The tech officer ran up. Fingers danced on the console. "They've locked us inside." "I can't." A thin wire shot out of the control panel. Piercing the tech's neck, he dropped with a gurgle. The others pulled back in shock. Zor stepped over the fallen soldier. He stared at the door. On its surface, a message flashed in bold red letters. "Welcome to the hunt." Zor roared in fury. "Blow the door!" 2 soldiers planted charges. They backed away. The explosion rocked the bay. Smoke and sparks filled the air. When the smoke cleared, the door stood untouched. The charges hadn't even scratched it. Zor's heart pounded in his chest. "This isn't possible," the voice returned, whispering over the intercom. "You thought you were hunting us." All around them, tiny red lights appeared in the shadows. Laser sights pointed at every Zharn soldier. "You walked into our home?" Zor's visor display showed enemy markers surrounding them. Dozens, hundreds, but the scanners couldn't lock onto anything. The targets flickered in and out like ghosts. "Show yourselves," Zor shouted. Silence. Then, one word echoed in his ear. "Checkmate." The lights exploded in a blinding flash. Zor ripped off his helmet. His vision swam. His ears rang when the light faded. Half his squad lay on the ground, unconscious or worse, and standing in front of him. A single human in a black stealth suit, face hidden by a mask, rifle pointed at Zor's chest. "You lose," the human said softly. Zor roared and lunged. The human fired once. Zor felt a sharp pain in his neck. Everything went dark. High above, orbiting the planet, Captain Sarah Holt watched from her command chair aboard the stealth cruiser Vanguard. The live feed from the base showed Jarn soldiers lying on the ground, every single one neutralized without a single human casualty. Her second in command, James Vance, smirked. "Worked like a charm." Sarah nodded. "They thought they were the hunters. They never even saw us coming." Sarah leaned forward, eyes hard. "This isn't just a battle," she said quietly. "It's a lesson." Vance raised a brow. "For them?" "For the whole galaxy," Sarah replied. "Humans don't run. We don't hide. We wait." She turned to her crew. "Send the message. Let them all know. The trap is sprung." The Jarn war fleet moved through open space like a swarm of predators, 30 heavy cruisers, 50 gunships, hundreds of fighters. Their mission was clear. Crush the humans before they could regroup. High Warlord Krell stood on the bridge of the Bloodfang, his eyes locked on the holographic map in front of him. He clenched his fist. "We strike now. No more games." The trap on Delta V-47 had humiliated him. His elite hunter squad gone. Not even a trace of them left. He wanted revenge. The fleet advanced into human space. It's hungry for a real target, and they found one. A convoy of human ships drifted on the edge of a gas cloud. 6 freighters. No escorts. No weapons powered. Dead in space, Krell bared his fangs. Fools. The convoy broadcast a weak distress signal, broken, filled with static, engines failing. Life support. Quest assistance. Krell's eyes narrowed. "Is bait?" one of his captains warned. Krell shook his head. "They wouldn't be that stupid. They know we're coming. They're running scared." The fleet spread out, forming a wide net around the convoy. Jarn boarding ships launched. 25 shuttles raced toward the helpless human vessels. On the way, they scanned for traps, mines, hidden guns, enemy fleets. Nothing, Krell smirked. Pathetic. The shuttles docked without resistance. Jarn warriors stormed the human ships. They searched every corridor, every cargo hold, but the ships were empty. No crew, no bodies, no signs of life, just humming engines and blinking consoles. Captain Var, the boarding leader, reported back to Krell. "The ships are abandoned. Systems running, but no one aboard." Krell frowned. "Impossible." Var's voice crackled over the comms. "The ships are broadcasting fake distress calls. It's a loop pre-recorded." Krell slammed his fist on the control panel. "Get your men out, now." But it was already too late. The trap had sprung. In the shadows of the gas cloud, human stealth, ships powered up. Dozens of them, camouflaged by advanced cloaking fields. They had been sitting in wait, silent as ghosts. The moment the Jarn fleet moved in, they struck. On board the Vanguard, Captain Sarah Holt gave the order. "Fire." Her voice was calm, cold. The first volley of human torpedoes streaked out of the gas cloud, tearing into the Jarn formation. Explosions lit the void. For Jarn, cruisers vanished in a single burst of fire. A second wave of plasma cannons followed. Silent, deadly shots aimed at key targets. Jarn ships spun out of formation. Shields failing under the sudden assault. On the Bloodfang, alarms screamed. Krell spun toward his sensor officer. "Where are they? Where is the human fleet?" HFY stammered. "They're everywhere." They came out of the cloud. Wide's eyes widened. The map lit up with enemy markers, human ships weaving between his cruisers, striking hard and fast. But the humans weren't moving like any fleet he had seen before. They hit and disappeared, hit again and vanished, always in motion. Always one step ahead. Regroup, Krell shouted. Defensive formation. But the formation was already falling apart. Jarn ships collided, trying to evade unseen attackers. Communications jammed. Systems JLITCHED. Then, the human stealth cruisers revealed themselves. One by one, they decloaked right behind Jarn. Warships, firing at point-blank range. The Vanguard appeared beside a Jarn command ship and blew it apart with a single broadside blast. Sarah. Holt watched the enemy ship split in two. She spoke into her comms. They thought we'd run. Crew answered together. We waited. On the human ships, pilots moved like shadows, silent, precise, deadly. They fired torpedoes, lasers, ion disruptor, stot, then vanished again into the gas cloud. The Jarn couldn't lock onto them, couldn't chase them, couldn't fight. Back panic spread through the alien ranks. Captain Var, still aboard one of the human freighters, watched helplessly from a window as his fleet was torn apart. He hit his comms. Warlord.
What?
The transmission, cut off. The freighter he was on exploded in a flash of white fire. Krell stared at the battlefield. 15 ships. Lost in under 5 minutes, he turned toward his officers. Pull back. Full retreat. But the navigation officers' face went pale. They've blocked the retreat paths. Our exits are covered. Krell bared his teeth. They were surrounded, completely above it all. Captain Sarah Holt watched calmly. This was not just a battle, this was a message. She turned to LT. Vance. How many enemy ships remaining? Vance checked the readings. 10. All scattered. Half have lost shields. Sarah gave a small nod. Tell them to surrender. Vance raised a brow. You think they will? Sarah smirked. They have no choice. Across the comms, the human fleet sent a simple message on all frequencies. To the Jarn fleet, you are surrounded. Your weapons are useless. Your path is blocked. Stand down or vanish. Krell's clawed hands trembled. He listened to the human message, eyes burning with rage. But deep down, fear. He had walked straight into their hands. The humans had set the stage, lured them in, closed the trap, and now they were hunting the hunters. He gave the only order left. Retreat. If you can. Out in space, the remains of the Jarn fleet tried to break formation, but every move they made was countered. Human ships followed them like shadows, pushing them, controlling them, like wolves herding sheep. Captain Sarah Holt watched in silence. The enemy broke, just as planned, and she knew. This was only the beginning. The Jarn fleet drifted in deep space, silent, tense, waiting. High Warlord Krell stood on the bridge of the Bloodfang, staring at the swirling gas clouds around them. They had come here hunting humans. Now, they were being hunted. The wreckage of their escort ships floated nearby, blackened metal. Dead engines, no survivors. The humans had attacked like shadows. Hit, vanish, hit again, disappear. And Krell hadn't even seen the enemy. He gritted his teeth. All ships, battle formation, ready weapons. His commanders barked orders across. The fleet cruisers turned. Gunships locked into defensive lines, but the void around them stayed silent. Too silent. No enemy appeared. Minutes passed. Then, the first ship exploded. Without warning, a Jarn gunship vanished in a ball of fire. No shots fired, no alarm, just gone. Krell spun. Where did that come from? His sensor officer screamed. Unknown. No readings. Another ship burst apart, torn open by an invisible force. Another and another. 4 ships gone in seconds. Krell roared, slamming his fist on the control panel. Return fire! Fire on anything! But the crew hesitated. There was nothing to shoot at. No enemy, no signals, nothing on sensors. And then, The human message echoed across all channels, cold.com. Clear, we watched you come. We waited. Now, you vanish. Krell's blood ran cold, far from the Jarn fleet hidden inside the gas clouds. The human stealth armada moved in perfect silence. Cloaked ships drifted like shadows, their hulls blending into the void, Captain. Sarah Holt stood on the command deck of the Vanguard, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Fire. At her command, a wave of torpedoes launched. Silent, guided by advanced AI systems, they moved like sharks in the dark, homing in on the Jarn ships. On board the Bloodfang, Krell's bridge shook. Another explosion rocked the fleet. His tactical officer shouted, "They're inside our formation," Krell snarled. Before anyone answered, 2 more ships erupted in fire. Plasma torpedoes tore through shields as if they weren't there. The Jarn fired back blind shots into empty space. Nothing hit. The human ships never stayed in one place. They struck from impossible angles, beneath, behind, inside blind spots the Jarn hadn't even known existed. Aboard the Vanguard, Sarah Holt watched enemy ships fall one after another. Her voice was cold. Phew. A second wave of human ships, cloaked right inside the Jarn formation at point-blank range. They opened fire with plasma cannons, shredding cruiser hulls and blasting engines apart, then vanished again. On the Bloodfang, Krell stared in disbelief. He saw one human ship appear just meters from his flagship fire. A full broadside, vanished before his gunners could even react. The Bloodfang shook under the impact. Krell's heart pounded. This wasn't a battle. This was an execution. Signal all ships. Retreat. He roared, but the comms crackled. No response, sir. They're not answering. The human jammers had cut off communication. Krell's fleet was falling apart. One by one, the ships were picked off, and there was nothing he could do. Aboard the Vanguard, LT Vance smiled. "They're scattering," Sarah gave a short nod. "Good." She turned to her weapons officer. "Cut off their leaders." Seconds later, a precision strike destroyed the Jarn command ship guarding the rear. Another fell in flames. Krell watched in horror as his command network collapsed. The human voice echoed again over his failing comms. "You never saw us. You never will." Krell slammed his fist down. He had never known fear like this. This wasn't a war, it was a slaughter outside. In the dark void, the human fleet moved like predators in a bloodless hunt. Silent, swift, perfect. Each shot hit a critical target. Each move cut deeper into the heart of the Jarn force. On the human flagship, Sarah Holt gave one final order. Finish it. The human stealth cruisers broke formation, surrounding the last 5 Jarn ships. They fired together. A storm of torpedoes and plasma blasts ripped through enemy shields, hulls, engines. In under 2 minutes, the last Jarn warship exploded. The space around them fell silent. No enemy signals remained. Sarah stood at the center of her bridge. "Comm/status." LT Vaughn smiled. "All enemy ships destroyed. 0 casualties on our side." Sarah gave a quiet nod. "Send the message to all fleets." Vance blinked. "What message?" Sarah's eyes hardened. They were the first. In the void, across human networks, a single message was broadcast across the stars. "The first Jarn fleet has fallen. You're coming. We waited. We watched. We strike now." Back on the Jarn homeworld, the message echoed through command centers, war rooms, and palaces. Panic swept across the Empire. An entire fleet, gone, without firing a single successful shot. They never even saw the enemy. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Sarah Holt watched the stars. The first blow had been struck, and this was only the beginning. On the Jarn homeworld of Dravik Prime, out deep inside the Imperial Command Fortress, a storm of fear swept through the War Council chamber. Dozens of high-ranking Jarn warlords stood around a giant holomap blinking red with alerts and flashing danger signals. Fleet after fleet, signal after signal, all Gone Commander Eric slammed his claws on the table. This is impossible. Beside him, Admiral Trex hissed. They wiped out Krell's entire fleet, without a trace. The room fell silent as the grim reality settled. Over them, it had been only days since Krell's invasion began. Now nothing remained of his forces. No survivors. No distress calls. Only one chilling message. We waited. We hunted. Now you vanish. It echoed on every Zharn command. Channel no encryption. No location. Trace. No origin. The humans had hacked their most secure networks. High Marshal Vroth stared at the holomap, eyes burning with rage. They shouldn't have this kind of power. They're a weak species. Warlord Jex snarled. Weak. They've been hunting. Our fleet's like prey. Another signal blinked on the screen. A live feed from a distant Zharn cruiser. The commander's face appeared, eyes wild with fear. We are under attack. They're inside the perimeter. We can't see them. They did. Feed. Cut off. A second cruiser called in. We're surrounded. We static. The room froze. One by one, every fleet commander who reported in vanished. Their signals went dark. Ships lost.
Ow.
No survivors. Vroth's hands shook. This can't be real. But it was. Across Zharn space, human stealth, fleets struck with deadly precision. They hit supply lines, outposts, shipyards. No warning. No mercy. Entire Zharn battle groups vanished in the dark. The humans never fought head-on. They waited. They watched. They struck only when the enemy was weakest. In the war chamber, Warlord Jex slammed his fist on the holly table. We should have crushed them when we had the chance. Marshal Vroth snarled back. We tried. They turned our own hunt against us, the warlords argued, their voices loud, filled with fear and rage. But Admiral Trex stood in silence, staring at the reports. He saw a pattern. This is no random attack, he said quietly. The others stopped. Trex tapped the holoscreen. They're not chasing us. They're guiding us. The room went quiet. What do you mean? Vroth asked. Trex turned slowly, his eyes cold. They've been letting us run into their trap. Back in space, another Zharn fleet tried to regroup near the Nabar Rift. Admiral Kor led 20 ships in a desperate attempt to escape human space. His voice echoed across his command deck. Form ranks. Push forward. But as they reached the rift, the stars around them shifted. Dozens of human stealth ships decloaked in perfect silence. Kor's eyes widened. Hey, they were waiting for us. The first wave of human torpedoes hit. Within 3 minutes, every Zharn ship was gone. On Dravik Prime, the warlords received the final report. Another fleet. Wiped out, Vroth stared at the death count. Thousands gone. He sank into his chair. His voice dropped to a whisper. The word spread through the Zharn Empire like wildfire. Humans weren't fleeing. Humans weren't hiding. Humans were hunting at the heart of the human fleet aboard the Vanguard. Captain Sarah Holt watched the star map update. Another Zharn fleet, erased LT Vance, stood beside her. They're falling apart. Sarah gave a slow nod. They're used to being the hunters. Vance smirked. Now they're the hunted. Sarah's eyes stayed locked on the map. This is just the beginning. Back on Dravik Prime, panic hit the Zharn cities. Rumors spread fast. They're coming. They're already here. We can't stop them. For the first time in Zharn history, the mighty empire shook with fear. Even the civilians whispered the name with dread. Humans in the war chamber? Admiral Trex faced the council. We have to call back every fleet. Fortify our worlds, Vroth growled. We can't fight shadows. Trex met his gaze. Then we don't fight them. The room went silent. Jex barked. What are you saying? Trex took a slow breath. We surrender. Gasps echoed around the chamber. Vro stood. The Zharn Empire does not surrender. Trex's eyes burned. Then we die. The room froze. Because deep inside, they all knew the truth. The humans weren't fighting a war. They were delivering a message. And the message was simple. We waited. We watched. Now, we hunt. On the Vanguard, Sarah Holt turned away from the screen. Her voice was low, calm. Send the next message. Vance nodded. A single broadcast echoed across John's space. Your fleets fall. Your empire crumbles. He hunted. Us. Now we hunt you. On Dravik Prime, the warlords listened. And for the first time in Jarn history, no one dared to speak. Admiral Vrax of the Jarn Empire had never known defeat. He had crushed rebel worlds, broken enemy fleets, watched empires fall under his command. But now, he was running, and the humans were chasing him. Vrax's fleet, 20 powerful Jarn. Warships burned through hyperspace, engines pushed to the limit. On the bridge of his flagship, the iron claw Vrax gripped the command rail tightly. His sharp eyes flicked between the nav screen and the escape routes plotted ahead. We'll jump to Sector 47, he barked. Humans won't expect that. His officers nodded quickly. No one dared question him, but deep down, they all felt it. Fear in. The last 3 days, half the Jarn Navy had vanished. Hunted, picked off by humans who struck from nowhere and disappeared before anyone could fight back. And now, it was happening to Vrax. The Iron Claw prepared to make the hyperspace jump. Vrax stood tall. As soon as we arrive, scan for hostiles and move. No waiting. We outrun them this time. His fleet jumped into hyperspace in a flash of blue light. Moments later, they dropped out over Sector 47, a quiet region of space. Vrax smiled for the first time in days. Empty, no human ships. We made it. His words froze. The alarm screamed. Contacts. Multiple, the sensor officer shouted. Vrax spun toward the screen. Out of the dark, human stealth cruisers decloaked already in attack position. Dozens of them. A soft human voice echoed over the coms. We knew you'd come here. Before Vrax could speak, torpedoes slammed into his lead destroyers. 2 exploded instantly. Vrax gritted his teeth. Retreat. Next sector now. The fleet jumped again. This time they appeared at the edge of the Gorn. Nebula, a hiding place few dared enter. But as soon as they dropped out, human ships surrounded them again. Vrax's heart pounded. How? Humans fired. Sharp, precise shots that crippled 2 more Jarn cruisers before Vrax could even give the order. Jump again, he roared. One by one, the Jarn fleet jumped across. The sectors trying to escape. Every time, the humans were already there, waiting, silent. Hunting VRX stood on the command deck, eyes wild with disbelief. This isn't possible. His second in command, Commander Threx, spoke quietly. They know every move we make. Vrax slammed his fist down. They can't. We're using secret routes. But even as he said it, he knew the truth. The humans weren't chasing them, they were predicting them. In a hidden command center aboard the human flagship Vanguard, Captain Sarah Holt watched the Jarn fleet's every move. Her team tracked every hyperspace jump, every escape route. She gave a small nod. They're doing exactly what we want them to, Advance smirked, cornering themselves. Sarah's eyes stayed on the screen, cut off their last exit. On the Iron Claw, Vrax ordered his fleet to jump to the neutral zone, a lawless sector where even the humans wouldn't dare follow. The fleet jumped. They arrived. Into a silent graveyard, dozens of destroyed. Jarn ships floated in the dark, human stealth cruisers. Circled quietly. Vrax stared at the carnage on his screen. No human transmissions. No warnings. Only silent waiting hunters. Vrax's coms crackled. A human voice spoke softly. There's nowhere left to run. Vrax felt a chill crawl up his spine. He barked orders. Full weapons. Fire at will. His fleet opened fire, desperate, blind shots in all directions, but the human ships didn't fire. Back right away, they just circled. Watching, Vrax's heart pounded louder with each second. His ship's guns fell. Silent, and then the human attack began. From all sides, the stealth cruisers moved in. They fired in perfect sync, targeting engines. Weapons, shields, one by one, Jarn ships exploded in waves of fire. Vrax watched helplessly as his fleet fell apart, his strongest warships destroyed within minutes. On the Vanguard, Sarah Holt spoke quietly. No more running. Back on the Iron Claw, Vrax's ship shook violently. Alarms screamed. The bridge lights flickered. We've lost engines. An officer shouted. Weapons offline. Another cried. Vrax roared. We are Jean. We do not surrender. Even as he said it, the comms flashed. A direct human transmission. Sarah Holt's face appeared on the screen. Calm, cold, focused. You're done running, she said simply. Vrax snarled. Kill me then. Sarah's voice didn't change. We don't want to kill you. We want you to go back. And tell them. She leaned forward slightly. There is no place to hide. With a wave of her hand, the human fleet disabled the last Jarn ships not destroyed, broken, dead in space. Trapped BR, Axe, stared at the silent human ships around him. His claws shook. For the first time in his life, he felt pure fear. In space, the human fleet drifted silently. Their mission complete. The hunt wasn't over. It had just begun. Dravik Prime, the heart of the Jean Empire, had never known fear. For centuries it stood as the unbreakable fortress of the galaxy's most feared race, a planet surrounded by thick defense grids, or satellites and orbital cannons. No enemy had ever dared approach. Until now, the alarms started softly at first. The Jarn commanders believed it was a system error, a ghost signal, glitch, but within minutes. The signals multiplied. Strange coded transmissions, human in origin, flickered across their defense networks, and worse. The signals were coming from inside the planetary defense grid. High Marshal Vroth stormed into the Imperial defense. Command, eyes burning with anger. What is this? He demanded. A nervous officer pointed at the holoscreen. Unknown signals. Moving inside our grid, we don't know how they got there. Vroth snarled. Where are they coming from? The officer's voice shook. Everywhere. Across Dravik Prime, the great cities of the Empire woke to blaring alarms. Military bases went on full lockdown. Fighter squadrons scrambled into the sky. Searchlights scanned the clouds, but no enemy ships appeared. No fleets, no armies. Only whispers of something moving in the dark, deep in the underground vaults of the Jarn Command Corps. A team of shadowy figures moved with silent purpose. Human strike operatives wearing advanced stealth suits. Invisible to sensors, undetectable to the eye. They planted data bombs along power nodes and communication relays. Small devices, carrying massive consequences at each target. They left a simple mark burned into the metal. A single human symbol. Delta, Delta. On the surface, Jarn officers screamed into deadcoms. Their secure networks flickered, and then went dark, one by one. Bases lost power, defense satellites dropped offline. Fighter squadrons vanished from radar, chaos spread like wildfire. Vroth slammed his fist on the control panel. How are they inside our grid? The tactical officer's voice broke. They're already here, Marshal. The holoscreen blinked. Unauthorized access detected the Jarn. Empire's command codes had been hacked by humans in the shadows of the Grand Defense Tower. A lone human operative placed the final data bomb inside the main reactor hub. With a soft click, the device armed itself. The operative whispered into his comms. Phase 1 complete. From orbit aboard the Vanguard, Captain Sarah Holt smiled. Begin Phase 2. The data bombs detonated, silent pulses of code that rippled across the Jarn networks. They didn't explode in fire, exploded in information, shutting down systems, scrambling codes, turning defenses against each other. Jarn warships in orbit spun out of control. Missiles launched on their own, targeting nothing. Defense towers fired blindly into the skies. On Dravik Prime's streets, panic erupted. Soldiers fired at shadows. Civilians screamed. Every screen on the planet blinked. With the same chilling message, we are here. We waited now. Hunt. Roth watched the chaos unfold on the HOLO-map. His empire, his mighty empire, was falling apart. From the inside, he grabbed his cums, sealed the core, locked down everything. But the reply came too late. They're already inside. The line went dead deep within the Imperial Palace. Sarah Holt's voice echoed softly over hijacked speakers. "We warned you." Her words played in every command post. "You hunted us. You chased us. Now we're inside your walls." On the surface, human strike teams slipped away. Their mission complete. No one saw them leave. No one ever did. Vroth stood in the command chamber alone. The lights flickered. The screens went dark. And for the first time, the mighty High Marshal of the Zharn Empire felt cold fear grip his heart. The humans had come, not with armies, not with fleets, with shadows, with whispers, and they had broken the heart of the Empire. Aboard the Vanguard, Sarah Holt gave her final order for the operation. Send the message. Vance tapped the console. Across every Zharn channel, the words echoed like a ghost's whisper. "We're already inside. There's nowhere left to hide. In every Zharn city, on every ship, in every heart." Panic turned to terror. The Zharn finally realized. The humans weren't coming. They were already here. In the dark reaches of space, far beyond the shattered borders of the Zharn Empire, the last fleet gathered. 80 warships, 10 dreadnoughts, 5 command carriers. Every surviving Zharn battle group now stood together. A final armada in a desperate attempt to hold the line. Admiral Zeroth, known as the Iron Fang, stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominar. He stared at the formation of ships outside his viewport, a wall of steel and firepower. "This is where we make our stand," Zoroth growled. "No more running." The captains around him nodded, but their eyes held something else. Fear for weeks. They had watched their fleets vanish. Entire armadas. Gone not in battle, not in surrender. Wiped. Out. Before they could even fight. Now, this was all that remained of the once mighty Zharn navy, and they would fight. Or die. Zoroth's tactical officer approached. Scans clear. No human ships detected. Zorath smirked. Could they'll have to face us head-on this time? In the darkness beyond the fleet's perimeter, cloaked human ships waited in silence. Waiting, Captain Sarah Holt stood aboard the Vanguard, her eyes sharp as steel. She turned to LT Vance as the virus in place. Vance gave a small nod. Confirmed. Their entire network is infected. They won't know until it's too late. Sarah's voice was quiet but deadly. Let them feel safe. Back on the Dominator, Zoroth barked his orders. All ships, charge weapons. Prepare for enemy contact. Across the fleet, plasma cannons powered up, missile tubes armed, shields raised. But then, the first system failure hit. On the destroyer Vriexen, the weapons officer stared in shock. "Sir, weapons offline." The captain spun. "What?" The lights flickered. Consoles froze. "We've lost shields. Engines stalling." Panic spread like wildfire. Aboard the Dominator, the same chaos unfolded. Zoroth's cums exploded with desperate voices. Power failure on the Maul. Vortex reporting shield collapse. Iron Hammer, engines dead. Zoroth slammed his fist on the control panel. "What's happening?" his engineer shouted from below. "Something's in the system. It's shutting everything down." At that moment, every Zharn ship's main screen flickered. A single message appeared. "We were always inside." Zoroth's eyes widened. No. On the human side, Sarah Holt watched the Zharn formation break apart. No weapons. No shields. No power. They drifted, helpless. Sarah gave the order. Begin. The human fleet decloaked in perfect formation, silent predators surrounding their prey. Without a sound, the first wave of torpedoes launched. On the Dominator, Zoroth stared as plasma blasts ripped into his crippled ships. One after another, dreadnoughts exploded, carriers broke apart, the mighty last fleet, torn to pieces, and they never fired a single shot. Zorth watched in horror as his command screens went black. No, this isn't how it ends. But it was. The humans hadn't just hunted them, they had broken them from the inside. On the Vanguard, Vance turned to Sarah. They didn't even fight back. Sarah nodded once. They couldn't. On the last Jarn ship, Zorath fell to his knees. His voice cracked as the human message played once more. You hunted us. We learned. You chased us. We waited now. We hunt. The Dominator exploded in a silent burst of fire, and with that, the Jarn's last hope died in the dark. Aboard the Vanguard, Sarah Holt stared at the battlefield. Nothing left but wreckage. Vance broke the silence. It's over. Sarah shook her head. It's only over when we decide. Across the stars, the message spread on every open channel. The last fleet has fallen. Your empire stands alone. We're coming. On Dravik Prime, the news hit like a thunderbolt. The Zhan High Council listened in silence. No words, no commands, just fear. For the first time in their history, the Zhan Empire stood defenseless. Across the vastness of space in every corner of the galaxy where the Zharn Empire once ruled, the message came, no warning. No encryption, no way to block it. It appeared on every military channel, civilian network, trade frequency, and command signal. First silence, then a soft human voice echoed in perfect, calm clarity. We saw you coming, we let you come. On the Zharn homeworld of Dravik Prime, inside the shattered Imperial Command Fortress, High Marshal Vroth froze. The words played on every screen in the war chamber. Vroth. His advisors stared in horror. The voice continued. You thought we were? Weak. You thought we would run. Images flashed across the holodisplays. Human stealth ships, Zharn fleets exploding, the fall of their last armada. We didn't run. We waited. In the streets of Zharn cities, civilians watched in silence. As the message played on public screens, children, elders, soldiers, none dared speak. We learned your tactics. We studied your weakness. On distant Zharn colonies, governors and warlords tried to shut the signals down. They couldn't. Every system obeyed the human hack, even power grids and defense. Networks showed the same chilling words. You hunted us now. We hunt you. Board. The human flagship Vanguard. Captain Sarah Holt stood before her crew. The message broadcast echoed from her command console. LT, Vance spoke quietly. It's spreading to every system. No resistance. Sarah gave a single nod. Good back on Dravik. Prime Vroth roared in anger. Cut them off. His officers tried no response. The message played on in the Zharn Senate Hall. Packed with leaders and nobles, the voice echoed through the grand chambers. We let you feel safe. We'll let you believe you won. Senators looked around in fear. Whispering among themselves, the human voice grew colder. We are not your prey. We are the hunters. On the borders of Zhan space, neighboring alien empires listened. The Krylok Swarm, the Vendari Council, the Vrax Dominion, all heard the same message. They had watched the Zharn rise for centuries. Conquer, enslave, dominate. Now, they watched them fall. And they realized the humans weren't what they seemed. In the shadows of their command centers, alien leaders exchanged nervous glances. If humans could break the Zharn, what chance did anyone else have? Back on the Vanguard, Sarah Holt stood at the center of her bridge, her voice calm. We don't conquer, she said quietly to her crew. We don't enslave. She looked at the massive star map lighting up with human transmissions. But if they come for us... She met Vance's eyes. We end them. The human message played its final words, now echoing on every channel known across the stars. We are humanity. We watched. We waited. We strike when you least expect it. The message ended. The screens across the galaxy went black. On Dravik, Prime silence followed. Not a voice spoke. Not a soul moved. Even High Marshal Vroth sat frozen in his chair, staring at the dead screen. His empire, defeated without a single human army landing on his world. Broken by shadows. Broken by fear. In the deep, dark corners of space. Alien empires began sending secret messages to Earth. Pledges of peace, offers of trade, warnings of respect. The message had been received loud and clear. On the Vanguard, Vance spoke softly. "They're scared." Sarah Holt nodded. "They should be. We're not hunters by choice, but if they come for us again—" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "They'll learn what happens when the prey strikes back." The galaxy would never forget the message, and it would never look at humanity the same way again. Across the stars, silence ruled. The mighty Jarn Empire had fallen, not by invasion, but by fear. Their fleets destroyed, their command broken, their homeworld left in chaos. But humanity never claimed their territory. They didn't take worlds. They didn't conquer. They simply waited. And that frightened the galaxy more than any war ever could. In the great chambers of the Vendari Council, leaders from a dozen powerful empires gathered. They whispered among themselves. The humans are watching. They could be anywhere. They destroyed the Jarn without lifting a finger. High Lord Ven of the Vendari slammed his hand on the table. "We must act. We cannot let humans grow stronger." The chamber fell silent. An elder counselor looked at him and said in a low voice, "Then, you attack first." Ven's face paled. He said nothing, because deep down, like every leader in that room, he knew whoever made the first move would vanish, just like the ZHARN on the far side of the galaxy. The Vrax Dominion debated the same question. Should they strike Earth before humans struck again? The answer came quickly. No one dared. Not after seeing human fleets appear from the dark. Not after watching the Jarn crumble without a single open battle. The Threx Supreme Commander whispered to his council. They are waiting for someone to make a mistake, and none of them wanted to be that someone. Across the universe, empires held their breath, waiting, watching, hoping humanity would forget them. On Earth, in a quiet command center deep under the surface, Captain Sarah Holt stood before a star map, glowing with alien signals. LT Vance stood beside her. "Status?" Zara asked. Vance smirked. "No one's moving, no fleets, no scouts, nothing." Sarah gave a small nod. "Good." She turned to the command crew. "Keep watching. We wait." Weren't planning attacks. They weren't building armies. They were patient. The galaxy had learned the truth. Humans didn't fight like others. They waited until the enemy grew overconfident, until fear made them weak. And then they struck once, sharp, silent, back on Dravik Prime. High Marshal Vroth sat in the ruins of his command chamber. The human message still echoed in his mind. "We waited. We hunted. Watched." He whispered the words to himself, because now he finally understood it wasn't human weapons that destroyed its empire. It was human patience. In the hidden chambers of the Krylok swarm, insectoid overqueen hissed softly. "They are not prey. They are predators in the dark." Swarm lords buzzed nervously around her. "We wait," the overqueen commanded. The galaxy fell into a cold silence, not a peace born from treaties, but from fear. Fear of the apex hunters. Fear of the species that had mastered the art of waiting. On the edge of human space, the Vanguard drifted silently among the stars. Sarah Holt stood at the helm, her eyes watching endless space. Vance stood beside her. "They'll never risk coming for us again," he said softly. Sarah gave a faint smile. "They'll wonder, every time they move, if we're already watching." Humanity didn't need to conquer. They had become something far more powerful. A silent shadow over the galaxy. A hunter that waited and waited. And when the time came, struck without mercy, alien empires built their walls higher, trained their fleets harder. But none dared make the first move, because humanity wasn't hunting now. They were waiting, and the galaxy feared that they always would be.